is the nice clean all day.
Did anyone else hear what Jay said?
All right, Ava. Programming fun in Wisconsin. Sounds.
Eat some cheese that grows.
I was about to say it sounds cheesy.
Jenny just said that they grow cheese in Wisconsin.
I mean, kind of.
No,
You don't grow it. Cheese does not
Wait, if cheese is mold,
But you don't grow
but
cheese
mold
on a
grows.
tree.
Cheese is not mold.
Yeah, it
Cheese-
is. There's a bunch
Some
of
cheeses are, I think.
A
Yeah,
bunch of
some
cheeses
cheeses
are
are
Yeah, like
mold.
blue cheese and
That's
stuff like
literally
that.
mold.
Yeah,
A lot of
it's
cheese
just
is mold.
mold.
A lot
Well,
of cheese is mold.
And
I
like
like
butter
butter.
is just the curd
Yeah.
like,
Brie is
turned
so good.
up
Do you know brie?
and like
The cheese?
cream
Yes.
Brie is so.
or like whipped topping. A lot of things is just like, I wonder what happens to dairy when I do this.
Yeah, yogurt is just milk and bacteria.
Yeah, literally bacteria. And probiotic yogurt
I
is yogurt
love
with
those.
extra bacteria.
I
More
love
bacteria, more fun.
More bacteria.
I mean, it's
Extra
edible and we're
super.
not dying, so I think it's fine.
Alright. I have 3 fruit snacks left. But we started this on Friday, mainly so we could spread out the homework. Still hoping to give you a little bit of homework time today, debating on if we'll get into the next lesson or not. Probably not, but the next resource page is for that lesson, and I just wanted to go ahead and have it. So, what did we talk about with average rate of change and why we would use it, especially in a situation like our water balloon launch?
I mean, we found the average between specific like increments of time because it goes in parabola, so it doesn't stay consistent with how like the average or anything it wrong. Very accurate.
How would you compare the rate, I guess, here to like the rate there?
You just take the rate of them. Oh wait, I'm not supposed to just. Forgot about that.
So this,
Simply.
since it's half a second,
Simply.
like it's half a second, but we're looking for, I don't know, maybe feet per second. That'd be like 70 feet per second.
68.4.
Right? Really fast.
A lot.
Like that's pretty darn fast. This is
fast.
like 4 feet per second. So we use average rate of change because we can't just talk about a rate that it's traveling at because that's constantly changing. As soon as we would talk about what speed it is, that won't be true anymore. So we have to look at individual sections. Right, so we could look at when t is half second, t is 1, and we did that last week. And did we do this one also, the 2, 2.5, 4?
Oh, we have this. I still have this in my calculator.
We didn't
You still have it?
We just stopped them. We were gonna do it, and you're like, wait, there's people that are not here. Let's do it on Monday.
So, how could we estimate the rate of change when t is 2 seconds? And if you don't, some of you probably don't have this resource page.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Actually, still back there, actually.
I forgot I had these.
Wait, did we have a substitute?
We had 2 extra on Friday. Gunner.
We are not
Gunner.
looking at Race to Infinity yet.
Oh,
Yum yum.
I'm excited.
So, the
Why?
question... Oh, I stuck them in the bin because I have paper trains too.
But you're used to nothing, so.
Alright. If you need one of these, stick it in your hand.
What?
The resource page from Friday.
Tell me wrong.
So if you were at Kilborn, essentially.
Yeah,
Yeah, Jen's lunch.
Yeah, Jen.
Oh, did you make me black?
No,
Evie made it
it's
for
slime and
Sunday
Evie made it.
night.
Oh my god, stop touching it. You're gonna get your card hard again.
You got one?
I'm gonna be the
No.
speedy boy.
I think that's good.
Ava, we've got one of these for you.
It makes this really uncomfortable noise. But when I
That was hilarious.
So, check out the graph and answer those 5 questions. Just take a moment, then we'll compare our answers with each other.
dispensers in this?
I can't find my dad in here.
Paper dispenser.
Yeah, like the paper towel dispenser, like in the bathroom.
I don't think so.
I can't find my dad.
Oh,
He's in China somewhere.
Wow.
okay, Danny.
That's still
I
fun.
can't
though.
find my dad anymore.
What's the next? Oh, I haven't found this book.
So we are looking for 2.5.
4 seconds. I said 4. So we missed that third one. I think I didn't see this one.
I usually read this week.
I think I didn't see them in the hallways in the very dark corners. 2.1 seconds.
Probably the week I'm going towards.
I mean, that was this. That's great. Except the first one I just like. Just say. Estimate the rate of it.
I see.
Yeah, everyone's
The
going.
rate of
slightly
change I
different.
put the. Oh.
I'm gonna put this in
How-
the
so- I can't just use a single point, right? How am I going to estimate the rate of change?
Is it y over x?
Yeah, it's y over x, right? Rise over run, change in height compared to time that it took. Anyone got an estimate for 2 seconds that you want to share? You said 9 feet per second?
This is weird. It's more comfortable. Oh, maybe it's semantical. That's right, starting over. Stop. Stop. Alright, stop.
Gabby, entry to the office. Gabby.
Jenny! Like, something dramatic happened outside.
Yes.
Just tell me, is everyone okay? Is
Yeah,
everything
everyone's fine.
Okay, no one's like upset at each other.
I'm upset at Jack's.
You're the third person I've heard talking about whatever happened outside.
Drama is hilarious.
Alright, now know that everybody's going to get different results here. But the book approximate answers at 2 seconds, it's about 14 feet per second. 2.5 seconds is approximately -1 feet per second. Are we
Wait, what?
in agreement or disagreement?
Disconfusion.
Disconfusion.
Disconfusion?
Disagreement and confusion.
I thought you couldn't have a negative distance.
Oh, so when we talk about rates in a negative sense, that is meaning it's going down. So
Yeah,
actually,
but-
this is probably better. This is more focused than the other image. I don't know why. So, 2.5 seconds, right here, right? If it's exactly at 2 seconds or 2.5 seconds, what were some of you thinking? Right, if that's your 2.5, what had some of you guys estimated?
Like the height?
No, the rate. We're estimating the rate in that moment.
The rate was height over. I got 6.5.
So we have to look at how we're going to make these estimates. we have to pick a small section of flight in order to be able to estimate the rate of change. So we start at 2 seconds. 1.25. What are these gaps? This is really awkward. 0.75 between two boxes.
Why would they do that?
Just use the other one.
Yeah, just use this one.
See, this is why I don't like it.
Then use the other one.
I'm gonna grab a graph and get the dot camera.
Where the frick?
It's just what Zoom did to me. So this is made using Desmos. So as you track with the wheel, it will change the scale.
Why would they make it 0.75?
Actually, never mind. I can probably just grab it.
Like your scale isn't inconsistent.
There we go. All right. That's
Oh, this makes.
so 2 seconds. But if I look just at 2 seconds, that doesn't give me rate, that gives me current height. So I have to pick a couple points. I can either pick leading up to it, like from there to there. I could pick
2.5.
across that section, there to there. Or I could pick leading from that section and do like some where your points have easy points to trace. The longer section you use, the more inaccurate it's going to be. So, if I want to approximate the rate of travel at 2 seconds, and I decide to do it from 1 second to 2 seconds, my rate changes a lot in there. Right? Right in here, very, very fast, very, very steep. Slows down. If I do it every 5 feet, or I can look at it every portion of a second, the rate changes a lot. So for 2 seconds, I'm not sure exactly what the book used, but I would really, if this was me, to make your life easy, I'd probably grab that point and maybe that point. Now, if you have this plugged into a graphing utility, it would be a lot easier. So those of you guys that were at Kilbourne, if you didn't watch the video, if we put the points into a table on our calculator, then do quadratic regression, it will generate the function for us. So if we plug in this data into a table, it will make it for us.
But they probably don't know how to use a calculator like me.
Jenny, you didn't know either. I helped you.
That was pretty close.
Yeah, and then where's the domain split? Just before we move on. Or, okay, not really the domain split. When is the function increasing? When is the function decreasing? Right, that's what E asks. So right about there is the split. So 2.5 seconds. So the function would be increasing when x is less than 2.5 and
It's more
decreasing
on
when
that
x
side of
is
2.5. It's like 2.45.
You are
I think it's. I'm
She's
what?
right.
absolutely correct.
Here we go.
I guess so, Jenny.
I was like, I'm what?
Okay, fine. Where's it end?
Ooh.
Okay, it ends at 4.123. No. 1, 2, 3,
Where does what?
5,
The function.
7, 8.
Essentially, where's the water going to hit the ground?
It tells you the question. Oh, it does.
It's at 4.9.
4.9, I knew that.
It says it in the question.
Yeah, I was wondering why.
Wait, what?
It says it in the question.
It says, and then
Hold on, I have my
after
book.
approximately
Why don't you bring
4.9
you never bring your book?
She doesn't have her book. Well, and Owens is.
But
way
see, it
over
makes
there.
you do more
She
work, and it
always
makes
uses
you
my-
realize the beauty of math.
She always uses my book though because you always forget yours.
Okay,
I
let's
don't
move
forget
on.
mine, I just don't forget.
Get in the locker.
Here.
No.
So. Try that out. Are you deleting an entire list? You can delete the whole list at one time. Oh, dude, it's auto-generated. So,
Ooh, fancy.
you go to.
We have to write an equation, guys.
Ew.
This being auto is the table set thing. That's starting at negative 273 and it's automatically including independence. You want to. I'm sorry, that's in the second window. That's just the second window. So you now you go.
Perfect.
You just go up to the very top.
It's not let it actually.
But I think you were in X and Y table, like not the list of these sets. And now you list it.
Everyone.
But to get there, you hit stack.
That's what I want.
The only way that I remember that is because it says list above it.
About a card.
Jenny, are you okay?
Karma cut up with her.
She's coming.
Karma's not an actual thing.
Karma. When
You
is
do it.
caught
I
that
need someone to correct me when I'm wrong.
Ooh.
What? Why'd you just have a coffee?
So-
Oh. Okay.
Okay, so let's write a function. What? AX plus B minus B squared equals 5x.
This way.
Oh, I see.
So you have to use quadratic regression before. Or you graph
You made my notes.
plot.
Yeah, but I
Let
never
me see
used
what's
it.
going on.
I wrote that down for you. Oh no.
Your second plot, which is that. Like the one plot where you turn it on.
This is graphing fun. Right? Well, actually,
No.
write graphing fun.
I don't know, Jenny. Can't we?
Now you actually probably just want to leave it as pen, so just go ahead.
I don't even know
You
what
need to change the window to match. So your window is really huge right now. So our window needs to work with this. I'd probably go negative 10 up to
Good.
positive 10.
Ohio's trash. Why do you ever want to go there?
Because I love it.
And then it's scale
What?
of 1.
That's crap.
And then Y is
Yeah.
I need to go up to
Oh, your reaction was
so
that
I'd still go negative, right? I'd still go
my friend kept buzzing.
just
That's
so
all
you
we're
see
Oh, see, Owen actually cares.
I don't.
I know.
Jenny, I bet during graduation I'm gonna be crying and be like, I'm not
Now what?
crying. Someone threw water in my face.
Why
So I'll come back during Thanksgiving. We'll go to make like a surprise party for me. We'll be like,
Or gonna yell at me and be like,
Yes, make it and make it.
or Samantha.
That's just how big each box on the thing. So that you can see the parabolic shape, but now
Oh my God.
into this stat menu. Oh, that's where you get your quadratic
It's
regression.
always better here when all my numbers begin and end.
I think I did this one right.
Oh, yeah.
How did it go?
You don't worry about the R squared later.
Oh my God.
and then like keep eating it. Like, but don't overact it. Because that's
I don't know how any of this works. I just know there's a room where I could go.
I'll just send this one thing to you.
You have it.
Form.
Yep, you fill in those values into the equation, and then you can plug that into the y equals and actually correct it.
I grabbed it.
Bickering about math.
No, you weren't. No, you weren't, Jenny.
Not that I know.
You were regular bickering.
So, how can we find a function for Al, given the information that we know? All we know is his balloon went to 81 feet and landed after 4.5 seconds. What things do we know?
The X and Y.
The x and y intercepts?
Yeah, just like the X and the Y and the vertex.
X-intercepts, right? Just because the y-intercept would be 0. So Al's balloon still starts here, right? But now its peak, well wait, when would it peak?
81.
Halfway, right? So 2.25, and it peaks at 81. That's not 81. Yeah, on a smartboard, kind of difficult.
It's fine.
There we go.
No!
What? And then it lands
Freaking.
Hey, no prevent.
4.5. So what do we do knowing those zeros then?
You can.
You can put the 3 points, well, you can turn them into a quadratic.
Exactly, but you have to make the A negative. Or to do with that. Oh, it's going to do that.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so that's negative.
But that didn't. Maybe that works. Maybe I'm just dumb and there's nothing for you.
Probably the last one.
Yeah, I got it.
Negative x squared plus 4.5x.
I don't know.
So we know the vertex also, right?
Yeah. Oh, I got that wrong. Okay.
Stop whispering.
Didn't we at one point say that the vertex was negative h? Right? Maybe? No? Have we done this here, or have I just done this with kids that I tutor? What did we use h and k with? When we were
Graphing
looking at...
form.
We're looking at what?
Graphing.
Oh.
Graphing form, right?
I built up. Oops. Ah,
You're using it.
see?
So, if we think about this in graphing form, then my height of, let's just say Al, or no, it's still height of time.
Ow.
It's still got to be t, because our input's time. And I hate that that's what we get. So wait,
Really are.
how's that help me then?
Then you can do x minus, or, sorry, never mind.
If
I can't
h
think
needs
straight.
to be positive, right? This is 2.25 and 81. If h needs to be positive, I put it in negative.
There we
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, that-
2.25, and then it's squared, and then it's the positive e1.
Oh, wait, somebody brought up a negative a.
Jenny did, because if
Yeah.
you don't,
Because
It
it's like
goes
that
downward.
instead of like that.
So it's
I don't think
just
your name is Denny.
negative.
Penny,
Does that work?
I'm not checking it.
What is this function? If I asked you to model the flight path of this glue stick
Parabola.
versus the flight path of this expo marker
Parabola.
versus the flight path of this find it flip,
Parabola.
They're the best.
what impacts
Make it
all
a trash
of them?
can. It'll be-
Gravity.
Gravity!
How do we talk about gravity numerically?
9.8.
Oh.
Negative 16.
Why do Americans have to make everything wrong?
Why do you
Negative 16. Because we know we have to have negative 16x squared. That has to exist because of gravity.
Yeah.
The middle, the B value, comes from what has happened to the object, the force applied to it where it started. The B and the C are unique to our situation. Glue versus pen versus binder. Are you guys paying attention?
Yes.
I know I'm throwing things, but
Yeah,
just to make a point.
Let's do it.
Regardless of what it is,
Piper, desk to the office, please. Piper.
it's impacted by gravity.
So
So we're working-
everything that involves gravity has that.
When we're working in some way, or 9.8 meters per second is what we do when we're working in a metric system. So be careful with what form gravity takes on, but we have to consider gravity. Now, wait until you get into air resistance. That's a pain in the butt. So we don't talk about that quite yet.
Oh, what year of high school are we talking about that?
It depends on what route you take. You might never know.
Yeah,
Are we
because
gonna do
where
it
you
next
go to high
year?
school.
It's more of a physics topic.
Oh, okay.
So if I factor this out and solve the whole thing, it does not stay like this, right? It becomes negative 16x squared and something messy and some constant value.
So is it negative 16x?
So it is, I'll clean it up and put it over here for you. It is
So-called.
I like pilot.
I like it.
negative 16 x minus the h off your vertex squared plus the k off your vertex. So try 76
Why do
on
you
your own.
write that one like a stick and that one like a weird one?
What? My h looks really goofy there, but what do you mean stick?
Like the negative 16, there's a 1. Why do you write the 1 like straight down and then the other
I
one
don't know.
like
Normally I do it like this, but I must have just made it fast. And that's like at a weird angle. I'm just slopping it up here because I already wrote it once. Fine, you want to like clean it up? You guys start on 76.
Oh my gosh.
Stealing out Charlotte.
Charlotte. I can't tell that's like a pun or something. Charlotte.
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 Ah,
Jenny, you're
Charlotte.
That's not
I don't know.
Charlotte.
Hold on.
There you go, Jenny. Does that make you
Thank you, Charlotte.
calligraphy ink too?
That's the word first time on time.
Oh.
I didn't know there was a due date.
Stunky Jenny.
Why does it matter?
That sounds like me.
Why does it matter that it's Alice Slingshot? What does that do for us?
It's going to be the same.
Oh, it's
Because we can use
like
that
Hollywood
data.
and parabola as Almtron.
Oh, it's adding a constant to it. It's adding 15 to it. So let's just get 15. So we just add 15 to it. And then we move the parabola.
So this leads us into something that I don't think we're going to have a chance to get to before break, but composition of functions, or modification of functions. This function, Charlie,
Is that like a thing?
Charlotte.
I don't know. Yeah, well, Charlie,
So
but I
then
forget
just
what.
be 96 at the end. Move the ion.
So its function gets increased by 15. That's it.
I did it right.
So Char's function is going to become
Thank you, Jenny. For me to give you the thumbs up.
or sorry, that should be t. Where I'm using x's, it should be t's. But
Can we just use X's then?
yeah, it doesn't matter.
X, because he is
But
what?
out here, plus what?
96.
Ah, 96. Because it already had the 81.
Hey, not
Oh.
complicated.
Now, I don't think they should win because they launched it from on top of the.
Well, that's not what matters right now.
So wait,
It is what matters.
with just looking at this function, can we tell when the function is increasing and when the function is decreasing?
Shouldn't it be at the same values? I don't remember what adding is.
So we know where this function came from, right? But imagine we didn't. Imagine somebody presented this function to you and they said, hey, when is this increasing? Like, well, I need to graph it. You don't, actually. You don't need to graph it. You don't need to see the parabola. Of what?
Up until 96.
Be careful when we talk about functions. We want to reference the domain. we want to reference the input value.
Until 2.25.
Yeah.
This function is increasing till the x value of its vertex. If it's in graphing form, you know the x value of the vertex and you know when it's increasing. And you also know how to find either the maximum or the minimum, depending on whether it's pointing up or pointing down.
So 2.25 would be that's where it would be split between.
Yep.
Okay.
So when t is less, or sorry, that's not less than. I'll read it in there. When t is less than 2.25. And then this is the one that has to be constricted. And then how long does it fly?
Whoa.
We just find the x for the other x intercept.
This is moved, hasn't it?
Yeah. So other x intercept.
If we model this in a graphing utility, or if we set this equal to 0, right? We could make this quadratic. If you don't have like a calculator, if you make this quadratic set it equal to 0, you're gonna find where the balloon hits the ground. But for the sake of time today, it's 47.
Got it.
Good job.
So glad we did it.
It's still the same homework as yours.
I haven't finished it.
All right, let's look at 77.
That's good. How did baby shower yesterday?
All right, check this out for a moment because I don't really want to read to you guys. It's childish. So read this for just a moment, and then we'll talk about it.
Oh, that's a good one.
Half 8 squared.
Oh no.
Now, who can tell me? I should ask this before I told you to read. Tell me how I've been lying to you.
You're not supposed to lie to children.
Read. Tell me how I've been lying to you. It was omission of information because I didn't want to confuse it. Hey, Mr. Cabilo,
Camilo.
what's gravity?
What is gravity?
Well, like numerically, what is gravity?
9.8
Don't answer for him.
meters per second squared.
What if we're Americans? We want work in feet.
You want feet?
Yeah.
Then you should
Not.
Oh,
I just
darn.
thought ahead and think maybe we should go to metric. I don't know.
I wanted you to be able to like. It's all good.
I seriously don't know.
So we've been using 16,
Everything,
which
everything I do is in metric system.
right. No, I agree. That metric is better, but CPM does both, so they're familiar with both. So they know that we're working with gravity, but they've been just allowing us to work with 16, knowing that we're in feet, and they know 9.8 really easily, and we haven't quite reached the point of dichotomy where they realize 16 is not 9.8.
What is a 16?
Well, think about it. 16 feet, thank you, Mr.
Yeah,
Cabilo,
it's
is
not
not 9.8 meters.
Yeah, I know. That's what I don't know. I just
Yeah.
trusted you guys.
Read this second paragraph.
Oh,
This
it's
second
half.
paragraph. Hey, this second paragraph, right?
It's half of- it's half
I think
of-
you're asking him a question that's going to be
So
answered.
it's half of beta
No,
is
it's
16.
It's all you can
Yeah, Chris probably knows he's just speaking of himself.
Evil.
Selfishness.
Yeah, so it's half. So 16, negative 16 is really half of the acceleration. So it's really 32.
9 point.
It's actually negative.
Say it
32.
again, but louder.
Okay, so it's actually negative 32,
Actually,
but
negative
because you
32. Louder.
Okay, it's half of 32 because 32 times 1/2 is 16, and it's a negative. So the reason why we did negative 16 and that works is because that's actually half of the acceleration due to gravity.
So, I can 100% appreciate that you guys could recognize that the 16 was representing the gravitational force, but that's actually half of your acceleration of gravity. Gravity in the feet form is approximately negative 32 feet per second per second. So, that's why we've been using 16.
You can't trust anything. If somebody tells you something, the next moment.
I didn't tell you the force of gravity was 16 feet per second, or maybe I did, but that's what's being used.
You didn't tell us that it was wrong.
It wasn't wrong.
Well, you know.
But that's just not the actual force of gravity. The force of gravity is actually 32. Because if you convert meters to feet, it's 32. The 9.8 converted to feet. Alright, so in standard form, what we actually have for Al's equation is the half A. So since we know A is 32, we can still use, that's still highlighted. Still highlighted.
But why are they all blue sticks?
What?
I thought we covered this last
No, we
week.
didn't.
We did.
Accelerated 7 got very upset by my colors never matching, so I just told him I'd just remove all the colors and just only ever use one pen.
Thank you.
Because I always change the color up there anyway.
Yeah.
So, still, working with gravity, still negative 16 t squared. Then, though, what was his initial velocity? Nothing, it wouldn't be going anymore.
Oh.
Everything I just tossed across the room had an initial velocity.
Well, it's the
Based off how
velocity
much force I gave it.
Velocity when t equals 0, so wouldn't it just be 0? Unless there was like a starting height, then I think that would change. So I think maybe for like, I'm gonna call it share, since wouldn't that be 15, but for him it would still be 0 because he started at 0, but she started at 15 with their initial velocity when there was no time.
So, velocity and start point don't really relate to each other.
Oops.
Isn't velocity just like speed, but it also involves direction?
Yeah, velocity is really just speed, but it's directional.
Okay.
So what he was asking was, did the y-intercept affect it? Which it'll affect the equation, but won't actually affect what the velocity is. Because say I bring my potato cannon and I launch it from here versus I launch it from on top of the school.
Where do you
It's
get these things?
built it.
Yeah, but
You build a potato cannon?
I
Yeah,
know you
you
do.
shocked
but
it.
like,
No, for me to school.
just
Yeah.
You just think
You
one
just
day,
have it,
hey, I'm
like,
gonna build a
around your house
potato
Wait,
cannon.
you should have
Oh,
brought
No,
it
this is
to
back in the day.
demonstrate
I know, I've used
It's-
a potato cannon before, just like, but it was owned by like a camp or something, so that's what I want to know.
I would love to own a cannon. I've got my potato cannon, now I can get my can.
Wait, so did you just think one
All you
day?
need for a good camp is a potato can.
You have the entire remote
Did
control, like a
you-
little setup thing.
Mr.
And just have like a cord from potato
Yeah.
cans.
Yeah.
That were all like,
Yeah.
and you they were all like,
Cannon,
so
potato.
you could like
Can, I
plug
think
cord
a
in
potato
and have them, like
can.
go on top.
Yeah.
No other
Like,
food.
go,
I mean,
boom, boom.
Betty Biden is better,
Like
better,
someone
better,
over
better,
someone's
better,
better,
better, better, better, better.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, better.
No.
Better.
Please don't.
I just did my speech too. Okay.
I just said this.
Wait, so did you just? I have a question. Did you just want to just throw potatoes harder, or what?
What are
Did you
potato
just,
cans?
You just think one day, hey, I want to throw this harder.
Oh, potato
I'm gonna make
cannon.
a
So-
freaking cannon for
I
it.
thought you said a potato can.
No, it was a
I was like, what's a
boyfriend
potato can?
of my sister's.
That's
I
funny.
think was trying to win me over. Like, you gotta have the little brother like you, I guess. So he was like, hey, you want to make a potato cannon? Who would say no to me?
Okay, that
So
makes
we
a
went to
little-
Ace Hardware and we bought the stuff.
Okay, that makes more sense, because I can see either of those
Just like,
going out.
hey, let's have a potato.
So, like,
Question.
So, hold on, let me just. If we go back, I was hoping somebody would make the breakthrough realization. We go back
That's
to
Ava's job.
here, and we foil this out, and then we distribute this out.
And you add 96.
Your initial velocity is given to you. by your B value.
Well,
Oh, that is true.
So, because I like
That
you
is
guys,
true.
and I hope that we could foil, and that, well, okay, so what's 2.25 squared?
6.
2 1/4 squared.
5.0.
So that times 16, right? Because that would have been the,
5.0625.
or sorry, not 2.25 squared, 2.25 doubled, because that would be your outside and your
And
inside.
then-
I said the wrong thing.
Then it's
Constant
72.
72. So our initial velocity from this slingshot is 72 feet per second. So in standard form, it's just negative 16t squared plus 72t, because these are fighting against each other, right? Gravity's pulling you down, your initial
yeah.
velocity is taking you up. At some point, gravity wins. And
Not
this
like
is
that.
what NASA, or anybody trying to launch anything, even the crazy guy trying to prove the flat Earth, has to
That's
deal
hilarious.
with.
That's still
Fighting
hilarious to me.
The gravitational pull to escape. You have to create your parabolic arc so that you don't reach the vertex until you've escaped the gravitational pull.
What is it?
Wow.
I think Earth is flat. I'm just kidding.
So, Char's hey, we're almost out of time. Char's equation then in standard form?
It has 15 at the end. That's what I was saying.
Yep. It would be that plus 15. You guys hear that back there?
Do what I was doing.
This just plus 15 is Char's equation. So, finish up the rest of those homework problems tonight, and we will pick that.
Or start them.
Or start them.
The Earth
And
is what
finish
the
I was
them.
busy. I have a Chinese school math test next week. They are like logarithms and stuff. And I have to
Oh, I love
memorize.
log. Hey, if you need help.
No, but I have to memorize all like the properties and the rules, and I don't have to memorize, but I know them.
Hey, these are corrections.
It's like if you
so
add them, then
if
you
can't
multiply
correct
them.
it, come
If
see
you
me.
subtract them, then you divide them. Instead of counting.
You
get it stressing.
Exactly.
You cannot correct this on your own.
I
Please
probably
come see me.
Oh, I got to close.
You can dig under the earth at all.
At least
I got a few couple things for you guys.
So I got like
Which one?
2 questions.
That-
down
Yes,
next
this
on
is
these
good.
two.
Oh, I hated that
Look at
test.
this.
I did that.
Look at
Oh,
this.
God.
Look at zero. No.
Yeah, because I saw the E and I was like, wait, what does that stand for? I actually got them right.
What does that stand for again?
Oh, I'm bad in that.
I got
No,
two.
I just have pretty high expectations right now. And even small stuff, like, if it's things that are going to really matter on the test, I want us talking about it.
She knows. He gave it to you.
She knows.
He knows. Having your dick today.
I'm
That
having-
just made my.
Apparently I am too.
Oh.
Anytime my mom takes me to
Oh,
church,
that's
that'll
even
be
more
even better.
depressing.
I got
Okay.
an E%.
I just want to go to the
It's not
guy.
three.
So, again, I have high expectations
Yes, I know
right now.
you do, but still.
Small mistakes.
Yeah, oh,
I know, but
like,
still.
are getting caught.
So now I also have 3 progressions, and one of them I can't even revise.
Yes, please, progressing.
I have 9 steps.
Alright, have a great day, guys.
I got a
that I
50.
can't do because Mr. Holmes hasn't been here.
I got a 3.
I didn't look at it.
Hasta
I'm
luego.
gonna see him on Friday.